Part 121. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1201. Chapter 1201. The wealthy socialite Gu Jingxiu. His plan was so perfect that he almost laughed out loud at his cleverness. Unexpectedly, those 7 losers could not subdue a drugged girl who had lost all her strength. When he heard that she had jumped out of the window and escaped, he was so angry that he brought people over and tried to catch her again. Unexpectedly met Wei Lingnan. This man is not easy to mess with. Pei Chenji quickly made a judgment in his mind. Whether it was the dangerous temperament around him or those words with deep meaning, it made people think deeply and fearfully. The uncle Pei Xian is very rich, and what this kind of person hates most is others trying to plot and control him. Regardless of whether he likes Xia Yingluo or not, he will not like to let others decide for him whether to touch her or not. Pei Chenji committed a big taboo by taking the initiative to Xia Yingluo. Once he was stabbed in front of Pei Xian, there would be no good consequences. Looking at Wei Lingnan in front of him, Pei Chenji's thoughts turned over and over again. Is he really that capable? Can you really talk to Pei Xian? However, it is better to believe that it is true than to ruin years of hard work by making a film about a stinky girl. Thinking of this, he politely said to Wei Lingnan, "Mr. Wei, I have no choice but to do this, and you understand the purpose. I am blind and did not recognize Miss Xia as your woman. If I had known it earlier, why would I go to such trouble? You sir have a lot of experience. Don't be as knowledgeable as me. I'll come to apologize to you 2 days later. What do you think?" His attitude of being arrogant at first and respectful at the end is astonishing. Xia Yingluo couldn't help but mock, "Pei Chenji, it's a pity that you don't want to be the best actor." Pei Chenji's face twitched a little, but because he couldn't figure out Wei Lingnan's background, he didn't dare to sarcastically reply. Pei Yan couldn't help but said, "Brother, why are you so polite to a cheap girl?" "Shut up," Pei Chenji glared at the sister. She really failed to succeed but failed. Even if Xia Yingluo is a cheap girl, how could Wei Lingnan look like an ordinary person? He had heard from his sister about the casino before. He could throw out 3 supreme black gold chips in a row, but Pei Chenji couldn't do it even if he asked himself. So, he believed that Wei Lingnan could speak well in front of his uncle. How can it be so easy to offend such a person? Although Pei Yan was stupid, he didn't dare to make a mistake when he saw his brother was really angry. He gritted his teeth angrily, glared at Xia Yingluo and stopped talking. Wei Lingnan hugged Xia Yingluo gently, half smiling but not smiling. "You are aware of current affairs." Pei Chenji had a thin line of cold sweat on his body. "Mr. Wei, please be kind and spare us brothers and sisters." Wei Lingnan looked down at Xia Yingluo and said in a friendly voice, "Do you want to spare them or not?" Xia Yingluo just wanted to roll her eyes. What does this mean? Do you act like a love saint in public? She didn't want to give Wei Lingnan a chance, so she stood out uncomfortably, but her soft waist was tightly wrapped around him, and she couldn't move away. She gritted her teeth and sneered, "Mr. Wei is so majestic. He scared even the Pei family to the point of peeing. What does it have to do with me whether you spare them or not? I'm tired and want to go back to the dormitory." Wei Lingnan said dotingly, "Okay." He raised his head and said to Pei Chenji, "Take that couple and get out of here." He didn't say a word about whether to spare them or not. "Pei Chenji, what happened just now?" Wei Lingnan glanced at him coldly. His light amber pupils were like some mysterious beast, which made Pei Chenji tremble in his heart. The terrifying coercion surrounded them silently. Pei Chenji did not dare to say anything more and left in a hurry with Pei Yan and others. Silence returned to everything. Xia Yingluo then pushed his arm again. "Let me go." "Is this your attitude towards your benefactor?" Wei Lingnan's voice was like a breeze blowing across the ice field. Xia Yingluo glared at him. "One size fits all. If you keep holding me like this, believe it or not, I'll beat you. Wei Lingnan smiled slightly. Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment, and then she remembered how unconvincing her words were when facing him. He was probably the person least afraid of her in the world, and those self-defense techniques were completely ineffective against him. She became angry. You think I can't deal with you? He raised his hand and gently brushed away the fallen leaves from her hair. His voice was gentle. I believe you have a way. Aluo, I've been waiting for the day when you have a way to deal with me. She was suddenly stunned. I always felt that his seemingly peaceful voice contained infinite sadness, which actually made her a little sad. How did that happen? How could she cherish a man who hurt twice? If she had had her previous temper, she would have burned Wei Lingnan's head now, but he still stood in front of her and said some shameless words that made her heart palpitate. Who is he? She suddenly looked a little dazed and felt him tightening around her, but for the first time, she didn't resist. The breeze blows, and the fine green leaves under the ancient trees are falling one after another. In the vast and grand rain of fallen leaves, the corners of his eyes and eyebrows look vaguely familiar. There seems to be a small voice calling in the bottom of his heart, calling, Nan, take me home. Suddenly, a sudden voice interrupted her confusion, Lingnan. Xia Yingluo turned her head and saw a beautiful woman walking along the corridor. She was holding a wine glass in one of her pure white hands. She was wearing a new pearl-colored dress. The fine gauze and satin material was changing in the sun's sophisticated and captivating color. As she got closer, she looked at the two of them and smiled slightly. Lingnan, so you are here. Who is this lady? Xia Yingluo took the opportunity to get rid of Wei Lingnan's hand and stood firm. Hello, I am Xia Yingluo. It turns out to be Miss Xia. The beautiful woman smiled gently. I've never heard Lingnan mention it before. Lingnan, where did you find such a beautiful girl and why didn't you tell me? She spoke in a very familiar tone. Xia Yingluo was guessing about their relationship in her mind when she heard Wei Lingnan say to the woman, why are you here? The banquet is not fun. How can it be fun without you here? The woman handed the half-drunk wine glass to Wei Lingnan with an elegant gesture, as if it was natural, and Wei Lingnan actually stretched out his hand to hold it for her. She extended her free hand to Xia Yingluo. Nice to meet you. I am Gu Jingxiu, Lingnan's fiancé and the second heir to the Gu's perfume group. Miss Xia, you are so beautiful. When will you come to visit our Gu's? I will give you 2 bottles of newly developed perfume, which are not available outside. As he spoke, 2 shallow dimples appeared on his cheeks. Xia Yingluo felt as if she was being protested. Although she has never encountered this kind of thing, her eldest and second brothers are usually surrounded by a large group of warblers and swallows, and she doesn't see too much of jealousy, overt praise, and covert criticism. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1202. Chapter 1202, Madness on the Cliff. Different from the last time when Pei Yan posted photos of her bed to demonstrate, this time Gu Jingxiu demonstrated in a dignified, calm, and generous manner, making it clear that she was the major wife in an attempt to make the mistress quit in spite of the difficulties, and her rank was more than a little higher. Half a point. Xia Yingluo glanced at Wei Lingnan. She really didn't expect that he would have a fiancée, such a dignified and elegant daughter of a famous lady. Wei Lingnan lowered his head and looked at her calmly, without any explanation. As a result, Xia Yingluo felt a little depressed. She didn't know why, but a little bit of irritability spread in her heart. But what does it matter to her whether he has a fiancé or not? He is not hers. It would be better if a woman took away the scourge as soon as possible. So, she raised her head and smiled at Gu Jingxiu. Then I'd like to thank Miss Gu first. You talk, I'll take the first step. Gu Jingxiu was very satisfied with her attitude. In fact, when he saw her nestling in Wei Lingnan's arms, the flames of jealousy in Gu Jingxiu's heart gnawed at his heart like a poisonous snake. It was her fault that she didn't attack immediately. Xia Yingluo turned around and was about to leave, but Wei Lingnan held her back. Did I let you go? Xia Yingluo suddenly became very angry. What are you doing? Aren't you staying with your fiancé? We met by chance. You have your business and I have mine. I can't afford to delay. Mr. Wei, please let go. This little girl, who was proudly showing off our Lingnan home just now, suddenly became Mr. Wei. Wei Lingnan's eyes darkened slightly. What a coincidence, there's nothing I can't afford to delay. He said and handed the wine glass in his hand back to Gu Jingxiu. You go and play, I'll give Yingluo a ride. Ignoring Xia Yingluo's objection, his long and strong arms wrapped around her waist again and strode towards the garage. Leaving Gu Jingxiu alone, he held a half-drunk glass of wine in his hand, with a wonderful expression on his face. Hey, Xia Yingluo struggled uncontrollably, but she couldn't resist his abnormal strength. She was half supported and half forced, dragged into the underground garage, and got into his black supercar that was full of science fiction and looked like it was expensive. Run! What do you want? She yelled at him after being locked in the passenger seat. You already have a fiancé. Why are you still here to provoke me? He did not start the car immediately, but looked at her. Do you mind? She suddenly choked. Do you mind? What on earth is she minding? Looking away, she said disdainfully, why would I mind? You don't care about me even if you have 100 fiancés. His eyes darkened slightly again. Yes, after learning that he had a fiancé, her first reaction was not surprise and anger, but relief and wanting to take the opportunity to escape. Does she really hate him so much? Suddenly, he started the car and rushed out like an arrow off the string. Xia Yingluo was caught off guard and exclaimed, You are crazy. He said nothing and drove at a high speed. Xia Yingluo only felt the scenery outside the car window passing by like lightning, as thrilling as a Hollywood movie. No, it was more thrilling than a Hollywood blockbuster. His car was so fast that the scenery was left with after images. Let me go, she was scared. Thinking of all the weird things about this person, she felt that he might be really sick. If he got mentally ill, we would all die together. She didn't want it. She is still young and has a long life ahead of her. Wei Lingnan, do you hear that? Let me get off, she screamed crazily, but she didn't dare to grab his steering wheel. The car was going too fast, and it was at least 200 miles away by visual inspection. She was afraid of hitting him if it was slightly off. What the hell, shattered to pieces. This is a downtown area, she went crazy. Wei Lingnan had a cold face and turned a deaf ear. The black supercar was like a ghost shuttling through the city. From time to time it drifted in sharp turns, scaring Xia Yingluo into screaming again. Soon he left the city and drove onto a winding mountain road on the outskirts of the city. His speed did not slow down at all. Several times, he was about to fly off the cliff, but he was instantly pulled back at weird and incredible angles. It was so thrilling. Xia Yingluo's heart almost stopped. In almost a blink of an eye, we reached the top of the mountain and the end of the road. The cliff was right in front of him, but he had no intention of slowing down. Xia Yingluo was so frightened that she even forgot to scream. Her mind went blank, and she finally desperately rushed forward to grab the steering wheel from Wei Lingnan's hand. However, his hand holding the steering wheel did not move at all, and the car rushed straight out of the cliff under his will. It's over. Xia Yingluo felt that she was destined to die and would be buried at the bottom of the cliff with this perverted beast in such a ridiculous way. The imaginary feeling of falling did not come. Just after nearly half of the black supercar's body was exposed out of the cliff, Wei Lingnan suddenly stopped suddenly, and the car stopped on the edge of the cliff without warning, as if time had stood still. Only the large amount of gravel and soil under the car could not withstand the violent impact, and the car made a rumble as it fell off the cliff. It took a long time for Xia Yingluo to realize that she was still alive. She cried all of a sudden and yelled hysterically, "You madman! Pervert! Bastard!" She was shaking all over, her makeup was blurred with tears, and she used the most ugly words in the world. Cursing him with words, she gradually broke down in tears and curled up her little body into a ball in his arms. He lowered his head and watched her cry quietly. For a long time, he combed her long hair with his fingers, like soothing a panicked cat. She wanted to throw away his hand, but she didn't have any strength. She was crying and choking, and said intermittently, Wei Lingnan, you bastard, madman, big bastard. I'm a madman, you big bastard." His voice was very calm, and he smoothed her hair again, and the touch of fine silk lingered on his fingertips bit by bit. "Isn't this what you want, Aluo? Why do you think so every time? If you don't get what you want, you turn around and leave. Even if there is another woman who covets me, you won't even bother to fight and will just let go arrogantly?" She was crying so hard that she didn't understand what he was saying. Her thin body was twitching and pitiful. Wei Lingnan soothed her up and down like this. There was an endless sea of clouds on the edge of the cliff, and the setting sun was sinking little by little. Finally she cried enough. She raised her face like a little cat, stretched out her hand and waved away his hand that had been on her body, and opened the car door without even looking at him. I tried hard to open it several times, but it didn't open. She yelled at him, "Put me down." "Still on the cliff, have you forgotten?" His voice was indifferent. Xia Yingluo then remembered the thrilling car ride just now and the endless sea of clouds beneath her feet. Her face started to turn pale again. God knows how long this car can last. It's scary that just now she was crying unconsciously, and even pulled against him several times in the narrow carriage. Lala, that's it for the 10 chapters of the early morning update. Good night everyone. The next update will be at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it will be updated every 2 hours from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, so stay tuned. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1203. Chapter 1203 Guardian. How should we get down? She forced herself to calm down and checked her cell phone. Call the police. No signal. His 3 words blocked her hope. She stared at him with wide eyes, not believing his nonsense, so she took out her mobile phone to make a call. Sure enough, she couldn't make any calls. Did you do it? She was extremely angry. He raised the corners of his lips slightly. You really think highly of me? Xia Yingluo then realized that this was unreasonable. How could he block the mobile phone signal? It was probably because she had encountered so many weird things recently that she became dizzy and confused. She threw her phone aside in frustration. Wei Lingnan didn't seem to be anxious at all. You have never watched the sunset with me. She almost wanted to vomit blood. What time was it and he still had the leisure to watch the sunset? If we don't go out, who knows when this car will lose balance and fall off the cliff. From then on, we will become a pair of dead ghosts, trapped here watching the sunset for the rest of our lives, she said coldly. Wei Lingnan smiled. Do you like this? That's also good. Xia Yingluo just wanted to push him off the cliff. Wei Lingnan looked at Hope through the windshield. His light amber eyes seemed to be dyed with a layer of golden red. They were so beautiful that they were a bit eerie, but also a little gentler than usual. Aluo, do you remember? When I first went to the battlefield, you were worried that I would not come back, so you climbed to a desolate mountain top every day to wait. Then there was a big explosion on the battlefield, like this, so big, so red, you thought I died and cried for a long time. They asked you to adopt another guardian, but you refused to say anything. You ran to the battlefield alone to find me. At that time, you were still so young and appeared on the horizon of the battlefield. Like being covered with gold gauze, his voice became softer and softer, and he smiled deeply. I was scared, you know? I swore to myself at that time. He did not say the rest, and only stared at the gorgeous sunset in ecstasy. Xia Yingluo was fascinated by what she heard and asked, what did you swear? Don't you know? The mean and hateful Wei Lingnan came back again. Aluo, the older you get, the less lovable you become. Do you know how many times I want to strangle you to death with my own hands? Every day you live. Thank you all for my tolerance. She snorted coldly, crazy. But he kept thinking about what he just said. So, did he mistake her for someone from childhood? When she was a child, she secretly followed her father and brother to so many battlefields. Who can remember which one? But the only thing that was certain was that she had never cried so hard, that she had never waited for anyone, let alone risked her life by running onto the battlefield to find someone. That little girl is so pitiful. You have to worry about you at such a young age. Xia Yingluo sneered at him. Don't you know that a good man can't make a girl worry? The corners of his lips also curved into a sarcastic arc. It's more like what you would say. She choked on him and glared at him fiercely. He leaned on the driver's seat, as if he was not worried that the car would fall off the cliff at any time, and just watched the sunset quietly. She finally couldn't hold back her curiosity and asked, what did you mean by guardian just now? What is a guardian? He was silent for a long time. Just when she thought he would not answer, she suddenly heard him say, the guardian is a kind of monster, an alien, a consumable, a death squad. Only the stupidest little girl will cry for the guardian. His voice was still sarcastic, but for some reason, she just felt sad. You. She thought for a long time and worded her words carefully. Do you like that little girl very much? He suddenly turned his head to look at her. As he turned his head, the gentle golden red color in his eyes disappeared like water, and returned to a cold and frightening appearance. No, I hate that little girl. He bared his teeth at her and smiled, like some ferocious beast threatening its prey. I have been thinking about it for so many years, just to find her and tear her apart. Eat it? Aluo, one day you will kneel on the ground and beg me to forgive you for what you have done, and beg me to love you well. Madman, he is really a madman. Xia Yingluo regretted why she asked such a question. Sure enough, curiosity killed the cat. She didn't know how this crazy person's mind was structured, but he had obviously mistaken her for that poor little girl. She won't be torn apart by him. Not even kneeling in front of him to beg for mercy. However, the most urgent task is to make him realize the reality. I'm not that little girl, she said bravely in his terrifying eyes. I don't remember adopting any guardian, and I don't know anything about what you said. You've got the wrong person, don't waste it on me. Time, hurry up and find her. Wei Lingnan said, it doesn't matter, you will remember it one day. I told you I'm not. Xia Yingluo was almost off by him. He was speechless. Xia Yingluo changed her approach and asked, why are you so sure that I am? He was still speechless. Actually, you're not sure, right? She boldly guessed. You must have not seen each other for many years before you mistook me for her. Did she leave you any tokens or other marks? You look, I don't have anything, how could it be her? Shut up. His voice sounded like it was coming from frost hell. Xia Yingluo was frightened by him and stopped talking. Perhaps that little girl was so important to him that he couldn't bear the consequences of admitting the wrong person? He had no choice but to treat her as him. If that's the case, wouldn't she be so unlucky? Not only was he entangled with a psycho, he was also used as a substitute by the psycho. Looking at the sinking sunset, she was lost in her thoughts for a moment, wondering how to get out. After a long time, Wei Lingnan asked her, Why don't you speak? She said angrily, didn't you tell me to shut up? When did you become so obedient? She glared at him bitterly, let me go back, I'm hungry and want to eat. Seeing that this crazy person seems to be emotionally unstable, who knows if he might lose his mind and just drive the car off the cliff to let her die. It makes sense to get off the bus early. Wei Lingnan did not argue with her this time, but silently reversed the car and returned to the mountain road. Xia Yingluo looked at him in horror, you just reversed the car like this is completely against scientific common sense. Wei Lingnan said calmly, no matter what the fuss is about, you can do it. I can't do it, even people on Earth can't do it, right? Xia Yingluo was about to collapse. She had encountered so many incredible things with this man, which simply destroyed her outlook on life. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1204. Chapter 1204. She is not the fiancée. She boasts that her ability to accept new things is not weak, but this is incredible. Even her uncle Xia Moyan, the legendary imperial master who was all-powerful, did not have these incredible supernatural abilities. Are you an alien? She asked unbearably. Wei Lingnan turned his head and glanced at her, do you believe there are aliens in this world? Believe it, why don't I believe it? Well, I am an alien. TCH, you said you were fat and you were breathless. Xia Yingluo looked at him disdainfully, you are lying to a 3-year-old child. Wei Lingnan. She lowered her head and played with her phone for a while. She was able to connect to outside signals again after leaving the top of the mountain. After searching for a long time, he proudly announced, let's just say, how could you be an alien? Wei Lingnan, you are the director of Wei's biopharmaceutical group, right? I found your information. The report said that your family's medicines you have always been at the forefront of the world. Is this probably why your wounds can heal quickly? As for reversing a car on a cliff, it was probably because he was gifted after taking medicine and was very good at studying. Xia Yingluo, who found a reasonable explanation for herself, calmed down. Wei Lingnan drove the car smoothly without commenting. On the way back, he drove at a normal speed, obeying traffic rules, and was as slow as a turtle. He asked Xia Yingluo, what else did you search for? Reports about you and Gu Jingxiu. Xia Yingluo looked down at her phone, her tone filled with depression that she hadn't even noticed. You mind? What? I asked you if you mind about Gu Jingxiu and me, Wei Lingnan said calmly, if you want to ask, just ask directly. There is no shame in it. I don't mind. She was angry again and glared at him, finding that he was not in pain or itchy, but also like a deflated rubber ball. After twisting restlessly in the passenger seat for a few times, she couldn't resist the pain in her heart. She asked, since you can't forget that little girl who has been lost for many years, why are you engaged to Gu Jingxiu? Wei Lingnan said, why should I tell you? She was about to be blown away by him, you asked me to ask whatever I want. His voice was still very steady, but I never said I would definitely answer you. Open the door. I want to get out of the car. Xia Yingluo was so angry that he was out of her body. How could there be such a hateful person in this world? Ever since she was little, she has always been the one to plot against others. When did it turn for others to plot against her and eat her to death every time? Wei Lingnan, this big bastard. Wei Lingnan did not stop at all, looking at the road ahead, if you admit that you mind, I will tell you. I don't mind. Xia Yingluo wanted to yell out the sentence, but for some reason, she still couldn't. Why exactly? Actually, she still cares about it, right? The beautiful girl stared at the setting sun outside the car window in a daze for a while, then suddenly said, well, actually I do mind. I promised you last time that I would go on a date with you once a week in the future. I didn't know that at that time you have a fiancé. But you actually have a fiancé, how can we date? The most disgusting thing in the world is to have two boats. She told Wei Lingnan that she was willing, and it seemed that she had found a reason for herself. Wei Lingnan said, "Is it just that? Otherwise, what else?" Xia Yingluo leaned on the soft leather seat of the passenger seat and suddenly lost interest. "Wei Lingnan, actually you don't like me at all, right? You know very well that I am not yours at all. Little girl, you just pretend to regard me as her support. After a while, when you get tired of playing the substitute game, kick me away and go marry your fiancé." The carriage fell into an eerie silence. Wei Lingnan didn't speak, and Xia Yingluo was too lazy to speak. She felt very sad. Whether it was Zhao Yuxuan or Wei Lingnan, there were all kinds of reasons to seduce her and abandon her. No man was sincere to her, but forced her to hand over her love. In the past, she longed for her mother Xiaoling's love story to be vigorous, but now she only feels that calmness is the true meaning of happiness. The black sports car stopped at the entrance of the training camp. Xia Yingluo opened the door and got out of the car, and suddenly she heard Wei Lingnan say from behind, "She is not my fiancée." She was startled and turned back to look at him in surprise. "Gu Jingxiu is not my fiancée," Wei Lingnan said. "Her family has a relationship with mine. She met me a few times when we first fell in love. When we got closer, she announced that she was my fiancée. It was originally just a little girl's joke. But she is a rich lady and her reputation cannot be damaged. The Gu family is also happy to see this happen, so they have acquiesced in this matter for so many years, and the outside world has mistakenly believed it to be true." Xia Yingluo didn't expect this. She couldn't tell that Miss Gu, who was dignified and generous, was such a bold and unrestrained girl. "Then why don't you clarify the misunderstanding?" Xia Yingluo asked. "Don't you like her? If my little girl doesn't come back, I will marry her." Wei Lingnan's voice was unusually low. Xia Yingluo felt a dull pain in her heart, and she couldn't explain why. "I'm not your little girl," she said coldly, turned around and walked back to the training camp. "It's none of my business who you marry. She really has no place in his heart. There are only two people, the little girl and Gu Jingxiu." "Who is she?" Xia Yingluo. "However, that's okay, she didn't love him originally, and when the rejection was resolved, everyone broke up." Xia Yingluo returned to the dormitory, listless. Jin Linger was walking around in the dormitory. When she saw her, she became energetic and rushed towards her. "Yingluo, Yingluo. You are finally back. How was the banquet today? I heard that you killed everyone. Made those Zhang Bilian and Pei Yan so angry that they turned black. Come on, tell me the details and let me relieve my anger." Seeing this best friend, Xia Yingluo's mood improved somewhat, and she said feebly, "I'm so hungry that I'm going to die. Go and make me a bowl of noodles. I'll tell you a story when my sister is full." "Oh, okay." Jin Linger hurriedly walked away. Not long after, the instant noodles were served. While watching Xia Yingluo eating the noodles without any image, she asked suspiciously, "Did you really kill everyone at the engagement banquet today? Why do I think you are so hungry? Like who was being abused?" "You were abused." Xia Yingluo ate instant noodles, but she still spoke clearly and told her what happened at the banquet in an embellished manner, omitting the part where Pei Ziyan and she were almost raped. Jin Linger was so happy to hear it. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1205. Chapter 1205 Secret Visitor. Yes. Zhang Bilian and those people really deserve it. We must teach them a lesson like this. Ha ha ha. Jin Linger laughed heartily. "Yingluo, you are so good, so that you won't suffer a loss when you debut in the future. Whoever dares to exclude you, you will steal her spotlight." Xia Yingluo smiled bitterly. This good friend of hers had such a bad temper, so she could probably have a good conversation with her dear mother. Eat and drink enough and sleep. The next day, everything was calm in the training camp. Zhang Bilian was probably embarrassed and kept silent about what happened at the Pei family's engagement party. She even didn't say anything bad about Xia Yingluo, which made her feel a lot calmer. Classes and rehearsals continued as usual. At noon, the dean came to her with a strange expression, "Xia Yingluo, someone wants to see you." Xia Yingluo was a little strange. She left home to practice alone. She didn't know anyone outside the training camp. The only ones she knew were Zhao Yuxuan, Pei Yan, and Wei Lingnan. But none of the three would come to her through training camp officials. She couldn't help but ask, "Who is looking for me?" The dean's face became even weirder, "You'll know if you follow me." Xia Yingluo followed him out with full of doubts, passing through the beautiful and luxurious teaching buildings, and arrived at the VIP living room on the top floor of the administration building. Pushing open the thick mahogany door, a faint aroma hits the face. There is a set of black leather sofas in the spacious and quiet space. A familiar man is sitting on the sofa, wearing a well-tailored dark gray suit, with an elegant look. Calm, with a hint of solemnity and majesty between his brows, it was Pei Ziyan. Xia Yingluo was slightly stunned. Pei Ziyan looked at her like a peaceful elder. "Why, are you surprised to see me?" She blinked and nodded. The door closed quietly behind him, and the dean of students stepped out. Pei Ziyan said to her, "Come and sit." Xia Yingluo walked over to the leather sofa opposite him and sat down. She raised her skirt slightly, straightened her back, and put her legs together neatly, making her look very elegant and ladylike. Pei Ziyan saw it and said, "My family has taught you well." Xia Yingluo heard his calm tone and was not quite sure what he meant, so she smiled. Pei Ziyan seemed to be chatting with her, "Are you still used to staying in the training camp?" Xia Yingluo said, "It's okay." She was thinking in her heart, what on earth is the emperor's super boss looking for her for? Isn't it true that it's all about having a good time? Did he see through her identity? As I was thinking about it, I heard Pei Ziyan ask, "Is your mother okay?" Xia Yingluo's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, this was the point. Now that she had asked this question, it seemed that Pei Ziyan had indeed seen through her identity, so Xia Yingluo did not hide it and said, "She is quite good." Xia Yingluo vaguely knew something about the relationship between his mother Xiaoling and him, but not in too much detail. Pei Ziyan lowered his eyes, looked at the cup of tea on the table, and fell silent. He didn't speak, and Xia Yingluo didn't dare to move. She still sat in a daze with him. After a long time, Pei Ziyan smiled. The smile was very light, which made people feel inexplicably sad. "I haven't seen her in many years, and I don't know if she has gained weight or lost weight," he said to himself in a very gentle voice, as if he was stuck in some distant memory. After a long while, he raised his eyes again and asked Xia Yingluo, "Why do you have her last name and not your father's last name?" At this time, Xia Yingluo regained her nature as a little girl and curled her lips. "My uncle thought that the surname Li was too ugly and said that girls should be named Xia. My father said that he had hidden selfish motives and wanted to use Li. My daughter was abducted and taken to the Xia family. They argued for several years, and then I couldn't hold off on registering my household registration, so I gave in. I usually call me Xia Yingluo, but my household registration and family tree list her as Li Yingluo." In this matter, she also admired her weird parents and her imaginative grandfather and uncle. Pei Ziyan was also stunned for a moment, and then said, "I'm sorry for you." Xia Yingluo finally found someone to complain to, and the chatter started immediately, "Isn't that right? Uncle Pei, let me tell you, why do these people have such a strong sense of family status? Grandpa taught me all day long, and the Li family counts upwards. 4 generations of boys were born, and it was hard for me to become a girl. I had to turn my elbows toward home and not turn my elbows outward. But my grandmother cried so much that she burst into tears. Yes, every time I go there, she holds my hand and says, my mother was a phoenix back then, and she couldn't stay by her side to raise her and enjoy the happiness of a family. She finally gave birth to a daughter like me, so she should spend more time with them on my mother's behalf. Xia Yingluo sighed as she spoke, every good thing is given to me, why doesn't my brother get this kind of treatment? Pei Ziyan laughed, you still dislike it? Xia Yingluo was worried seriously, it's really annoying to be surrounded by a lot of people asking for help. She rambled on and on, chatting with Pei Ziyan for a while. Although the man in front of her was her father's rival in love, he was also a good chat partner. He patiently listened to her talk about the trivial girlish concerns, and spoke with her from time to time. She talked for a long time, feeling a little tired, so she picked up the teacup and drank some water. Pei Ziyan asked her, are your mother and your father okay? His question was simple, but she understood it, so she said simply, very good. Uncle Pei, the tea you have here is really delicious. Pei Ziyan looked at her, why, don't you want to tell me more about your mother? Seeing that she couldn't escape, Xia Yingluo said sadly, my dad will beat me if he finds out. Pei Ziyan was startled for a moment, then smiled, this time the smile was a bit melancholy and bitter. He didn't ask any more questions and just drank tea slowly. Xia Yingluo saw that the atmosphere was a little tense, so she took the initiative to chat about other topics. Uncle Pei, how did you recognize me? Pei Ziyan said, I know she has a daughter named Xia Yingluo, and I also know the rules of the Li family's trials. When I saw you that day, I saw that you looked similar to her and were about the same age, so I sent someone to check. I learned about your resume. That fake resume was well done and almost perfect. If I hadn't already made assumptions about you, I would have been able to hide it. He seemed to be talking about a very common thing. Xia Yingluo knows what extraordinary means it takes to see through the resume created by the Li family. Uncle Pei, can you promise me something? Xia Yingluo requested. Pei Ziyan, say. Xia Yingluo said, you know, I am here for training this time. If my identity is revealed, it will be regarded as a failure. Can you keep it secret for me? And don't use your privileges to do anything for me. Just treat it as if you have never met before. Pass me. This is not a difficult task, Pei Ziyan nodded in agreement. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1206. Chapter 1206 An Unexpected Scene. Xia Yingluo achieved her goal, smiled so hard that she was about to say goodbye and leave. Pei Ziyan didn't want to keep her. He originally came to find her to find out about Xiaoling's current situation. Since she didn't want to say more, what was the use of staying? However, when she walked to the door, Pei Ziyan still asked, what's going on between you and Wei Lingnan? Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment and turned around. He and I. Tai couldn't finish the sentence. Xia Yingluo simply asked Pei Ziyan, Uncle Pei, do you know him? Pei Ziyan looked at her indifferently, why, you don't know? I have never heard of this person before, Xia Yingluo said, who is he? It seems that your parents have protected you very well. Pei Ziyan didn't want to say more. He only knew a little bit about Wei Lingnan. He only heard that the Wei family biopharmaceutical group had a mysterious origin, and that person was named Wei Lingnan. This man's hands and eyes are so powerful that even Xia Kuashi is afraid of him. But the Xia family and the Li family didn't reveal anything to Xia Yingluo about the person that even Master Xia was afraid of, so why should he worry about it? Waving his hand, he signaled that Xia Yingluo could leave. Xia Yingluo was a little frustrated. She knew from the look on his face that she knew something, but she didn't want to say more. Judging from his tone, his parents also know about Wei Lingnan? Why have I never heard them talk about it? Maybe he's just an ordinary person who doesn't deserve any fuss. She left confused. The weather outside the administrative building was sunny, and the midsummer green shade blocked the sky. The Dean of Academic Affairs was waiting for her on the doorstep. When he saw her, he smiled and said, "Come out, Yingluo," probably because she was summoned by Pei Ziyan. His smile when he saw her was a little more cordial than before. Xia Yingluo asked, "Director, is there anything else?" The dean wanted to ask her what Pei Ziyan said to her, but seeing that she didn't look like she was good at talking, he had the good sense not to touch this problem. "It's like this," he still had a smile on his face, "I have good news to tell you. That day you performed a dance at Miss Pei Yan's engagement party and was noticed by a producer present. It's a good thing to find a training camp and invite you to participate in a movie, so the training camp agreed on your behalf. This is indeed a good thing. For ordinary trainees, the opportunity is too rare." But Xia Yingluo didn't really want to be famous. She just wanted to eat and die in the training camp. Hearing this, she sighed without interest. "Thank you, director, can I refuse?" "Refuse?" The director looked at her like a monster. "Are you okay?" Xia Yingluo sighed again. "Can't you?" She knew that each training camp had strict regulations, and trainees must obey the camp's arrangements. No matter what the arrangements were, they were not allowed to be picky. Sure enough, the Dean of Academic Affairs said, "No, unless you go and ask Director Pei to ask him to speak." Xia Yingluo glanced at the academic director and saw an ambiguous look on his face. Could it be that she had misunderstood something? This was really annoying. In order to avoid getting darker and darker, she had no choice but to say, "Okay, I'll go." The Dean of Academic Affairs then laughed again. "Yes, this is a good thing." A few days later, Xia Yingluo reported in according to the crew information given by the academic director. The registration location was at a film and television studio. When Xia Yingluo arrived, she found out that the actor who originally played the role suddenly fell ill, so she urgently found someone to fill in. The person who received her was an assistant director. He looked at her and said, "Miss Xia Yingluo, right? Producer Zhang recommended you to me. He said that after meeting you once at the banquet, he felt that your image and temperament were very suitable for the role. As soon as you came over today, I felt that he was right. There is no time. You can go through the script and start shooting in a while." Xia Yingluo was stunned. "Is it officially filming?" The director said, "Yes, I know the preparation time is not enough, but there is no way to keep up with the schedule, so you just have to work hard. Anyway, there are only a few lines, and the physical and facial expressions are good. It doesn't sound difficult." Xia Yingluo lowered her head and glanced at the script. "Okay." The director smiled and encouraged her, then turned around to do other things. She sat alone in the corner and flipped through the script. She was asked to play a small supporting role. A female middle school student from the Republic of China was walking in an alley, and then several robbers rushed out and robbed her of all her money. Throughout the whole scene, she only had to turn around, scream and struggle, and it was indeed not a difficult scene. "Do I look like someone who can be easily robbed?" Xia Yingluo turned over the script and muttered to herself, worried about what the director just said. "Your image and temperament are very suitable." Not long after, filming started. Xia Yingluo is very talented and was a top student in the training camp. Although this was her first serious filming, when the camera crews focused on her, she had naturally entered the state. The drizzle is deep in the alley, and a few apricot flowers are blooming. She was walking in a light blue student uniform, with graceful posture, and her back alone made people unable to take their eyes away. The cameras of the cameramen were chasing her, not wanting to miss a single bit of beauty, and she was swimming freely in this focus, without the greenness that a newcomer should have. The director squinted his eyes slightly. This girl has a really good sense of camera, and she will become something great in time. It's just a pity. Who told her to offend anyone? The director winked at the male actors on the side, and those who were made up to look like gangsters also entered the scene and followed her. Xia Yingluo walked in front, always paying attention to the movement behind her, and carefully restrained herself from fighting back against the coming attack. She had been taught well by her father and brother since she was a child, and her self-defense skills were first-rate. If a real sword and gun were used, Wu Lai, even all the people here may not be her opponent. There is a sound in the back of my head. She felt someone grabbed her shoulder, so she resisted the urge to throw the person out, and used her acting skills to scream. Turning her head, her hair was fluttering in the drizzle, a look of horror appeared on her delicate little face, and she stared wide-eyed at the men who attacked her. Their postures were so beautiful, and they were so dramatic, both physically and spiritually. Many staff at the scene held their breaths. This girl was so touching. Even the actor who caught her was stunned by her beauty. "Little sister, why are you walking alone? Come on, hand over the money you have." Another actor dressed obscenely said the line, and a pair of restless hands touched her chest. Xia Yingluo was instinctively startled and ran away before she could think about it. The other person was stunned for a moment, as if he didn't expect that she would avoid it. Xia Yingluo was also stunned for a moment. She didn't expect that the other party would dare to touch her chest. The scene was shot in a hurry, and none of the actors had acted together beforehand. She was not mentally prepared for their actions, and glared at them a few times, silently warning them not to mess around. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1207. Chapter 1207. Who was offended? The male actors seemed not to notice what she was looking at. They all gathered around and smiled obscenely, saying, "Little sister, are you still shy? Don't waste your efforts to resist. Just be obedient, take off your clothes and let your brothers search you. They will make you very comfortable." A burst of lewd laughter. Xia Yingluo acted panic-stricken while deftly protecting her vital parts. She retreated to the corner like a weak girl who had been bullied and stammered, "Don't come over here." Out of the corner of my eye, I looked at the director. There is something wrong with this play. Several actors did not follow the lines in the script. Although during the actual filming process, many actors will improvise based on their own understanding of the role, when it comes to sensitive scenes that require actresses to make some color sacrifices, they usually confirm and communicate with the actress first. But they had no communication at all. Normally, the director should have shouted "Cut." But the director didn't shout. As long as the director doesn't shout, the camera lens will continue to operate, and as an actor, Xia Yingluo's professionalism forces her to continue acting. What to do? Seeing those men pounce on her again, refusing to give up until they take advantage of her, Xia Yingluo couldn't help but become angry. Why would so many of them bully her? Okay, they want to improvise, right? Then she will let them improvise. Xia Yingluo was furious in her heart. She pretended to struggle, screamed miserably, and fell to one side in embarrassment. However, she kicked the crotch of the actor who made the most obscene move with one foot. Then she heard the actor suddenly let out a cry. Howling like a killing pig, he rolled to the ground. The sudden change shocked everyone. Xia Yingluo huddled in the corner, surrounded by the remaining male actors, and looked like she was about to cry. However, while they were blocking the camera, her cold voice came out in a low voice, "Who dares? If you touch me arbitrarily, you will lose your descendants." There was a chilling air in her words, which frightened the male actors. They looked at each other. Didn't the director say that this little girl was easy to deal with? As long as they swarmed her, stripped her naked, did it in public, and then told her later that this was devoting one's life to art, what else could she do? It's just a cry and admitting you are unlucky. Unexpectedly, before the person finished it, one of them was broken. The companions fell to the ground and screamed miserably. They were really afraid of losing their descendants. For a time, several male actors restrained themselves and really did not dare to approach Xia Yingluo too much. The scene in the camera lens became very weird. The girl who was forced into the corner was still cowering and frightened. However, the robbers who were supposed to be like wolves and tigers were all dumb and cowardly and did not dare to step forward. The director finally shouted angrily, "Ka!" Xia Yingluo let out a long breath, pushed them away, stood up, and yelled fiercely, "Stay away from me." Before they could say anything, she walked towards the director angrily and asked, "Director, that's not the way it is in the script." "Yes. Why did they attack me? Why didn't you shout?" Sure enough, the director used the rhetoric of acting on the spot and scolded, "You little girl, do you have any professionalism? There are many actresses who are not touched. Why are you so dignified? You kick people to do it? Well, even if you make a scene, something will go wrong. If your reputation for not observing professional ethics spreads, no one will dare to use you in the future." Those words, including threats, were meant to make Xia Yingluo submit. If it were an ordinary fledgling actress, she might be really intimidated, fearing that her own future would be ruined, so she would reluctantly give in. But who is Xia Yingluo? How could a young lady who had been pampered and raised since childhood endure the casual touch of those lewd men? She gritted her teeth and smiled, "Director, this is too much a double standard. What, they are calling me improvisation, and my resistance is called lack of professionalism. The script said that I was going to scream and struggle, but I struggled again and again. What's the matter? It's interesting to make the plot more intense, isn't it? Director, do you know how to act?" The director was so ridiculed by her that he just scolded, "That's unreasonable. Do you still want to film it?" Xia Yingluo snorted coldly, "I really don't want to take pictures anymore. You guys are looking for whoever you want, and my aunt won't take care of you anymore." She reached out and pushed the staff around her, and walked out. "Stop," the director was furious. "If you sign a contract and don't shoot, are you going to break the contract? Believe it or not, I will make it impossible for you to survive in this industry." Xia Yingluo turned around, gave him a middle finger, and left without looking back. When she returned to the training camp, she couldn't swallow her breath and went straight to the administration building to find the dean. The dean was surprised when he saw her. "Xia Yingluo, didn't you go to the crew to film today? Why haven't you left yet?" Xia Yingluo was so angry, "Don't mention it, I went there and came back." "Director, what kind of bad crew is that? They try their best to bully people. Several men touched me, and the director didn't yell." The dean's face changed when he heard what she said. He has been immersed in this industry for a long time, and has heard of too many shady things. There was once an actress who was deceived into filming without knowing it. Even if she found something wrong on the scene, she would cry and struggle. People just thought that she was too involved in the drama and forced her to finish filming. The damage had been done and could not be undone. Xia Yingluo is a top student in the Emperor's training camp, and her future is limitless. No matter how stupid the school authorities are, they will not let a rising star who may become a future star betray his for the first time he takes on the role. There must be something wrong here. The teaching director said, "Calm down, I'll find out the situation from the crew." He immediately called the crew and negotiated the matter seriously. After a long time, he put down the phone and said to Xia Yingluo, "The other party said it was a misunderstanding. If you don't want to shoot, you don't have to go. We can terminate the contract peacefully." Xia Yingluo was still angry. Peaceful termination of the contract? If I hadn't been clever, who knows what would have happened. The academic director had no choice but to say, the outside crew is like this. It is a very good result to terminate the contract peacefully. By the way, Yingluo, have you offended anyone recently? From what I heard, someone must have instigated it. They take revenge on you. Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment. Did she offend someone? Do Pei Yan and Zhao Yuxuan count? The dean said, it's unlikely to be them even if outsiders didn't know that Xia Yingluo was attracted by Pei Ziyan. After all, it happened at the engagement party, and Pei Yan and the two knew it clearly. If Xia still blatantly provokes Xia Yingluo under this situation, then she doesn't want her brother to be the heir. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1208. Chapter 1208, Excessive Shots. Xia Yingluo also wanted to understand the power of it. She pondered for a moment and said hesitantly, Zhang Bilian, but Zhang Bilian is not a very powerful person and should not be able to instruct a crew to go against her. Sure enough, the dean said, it doesn't look like it. Anyway, be careful and pay more attention to who is being targeted. If you encounter any trouble that you can't handle, just come and tell me and I will help you. She is the top student in the training camp. Sheng is also a person who Pei Ziyan has a good eye for. He will not sit idly by regardless of emotion or reason. Xia Yingluo couldn't think of anyone else she had offended. She sighed, thanked the dean, and left. A few days later, something happened. The film shot by the crew was finished, and the promotional video was circulated. There was actually a large-scale shot, in which there were apricot blossoms in the drizzle in the deep lane. The figure of a girl without clothes was poignant among a group of thugs. She looked up in the dim sky, and the camera zoomed in. The close-up is actually Xia Yingluo's face. It was a niche literary film with beautiful light and shadow effects. Although the promotional video was erotic, it gained a good reputation among the audience. Countless people have inquired about the identity of the girl who appeared in the photo without clothes. She has such a beautiful face, a mixture of innocence and enchantment. Her beauty is also full of desperate ferocity, which captivates the soul. The emperor's training camp exploded. The outside world doesn't know, but they know that girl is Xia Yingluo. The clip was posted on the campus website, and many people left messages. I can't believe that Xia Yingluo, who is usually so aloof and blasphemous, would actually accept this kind of movie. If you want to be famous, what can't you do? What a noble person, she has been taken care of by many men, don't you know? Tisk, what a pity, the results are so good, how can it be reduced to the point of being sold? The comments instantly turned into a tall building. Jin Linger was shocked and angry when she saw these posts, and came to Xia Yingluo. Yingluo, did you really go film that scene? Do you know that this will ruin you? Xia Yingluo has been disturbed recently. She thinks that she has really offended someone, and she doesn't know who has made her mobile phone number public, so that she always receives calls from some sleazy men, inviting her to participate in unscrupulous dinner parties. Yes, ask her how much it costs to stay with her for one night. My mobile phone number has changed, she gave the new number to Jin Linger. If I said that it wasn't me who appeared in the photo, but that they used someone else's body to mix it with my lens, would you believe it? Jin Linger was stunned for a moment, then breathed a sigh of relief and smiled reassuringly, great. I knew you weren't the type to do such a thing. Yingluo, you scared me to death. I'll go to the forum right away. Go up to them and tell everyone that's not you. It's useless. Xia Yingluo smiled bitterly. Huh, Jin Linger was stunned. I said it's useless. Xia Yingluo sighed, and told her the dean's previous speculation about the offended person. That person will not let me clear my name easily, and the people who eat melons like to watch the fun, I wish I would be spread as bad as possible. How many people are willing to listen to your explanation? Jin Linger knew that what she said was true, and she was dejected, but, is that all? You shouldn't have to bear this kind of stigma. What should you do when you debut with such a reputation? Xia Yingluo is not worried about her debut, but she really doesn't want to bear such a stigma. Why should an innocent person be slandered like this? I have entrusted a private detective to investigate, Xia Yingluo comforted her and said, when I find out the truth, I will definitely make that person look good. Jin Linger was doubtful, can you find out? Definitely, Xia Yingluo patted her head, don't worry, the private detective she found was the best in the city, and the asking price was quite high. Fortunately, she had the card Wei Lingnan gave her. It is an urgent need. Thinking about it this way, I feel that Wei Lingnan is not completely useless. He can at least be used as an ATM. Let's go and eat. Feeling better, she greeted Jin Linger. The two of them arrived at the canteen of the training camp. It was the peak meal period and there were people everywhere. Xia Yingluo pulled the golden bell and squeezed into the crowd to buy food. Many people were secretly looking at her along the way, and they looked at her with various interesting looks that made her very uncomfortable. Jin Linger is mean to those people. What are you looking at? I've never seen a beautiful woman. Took Xia Yingluo to an empty table and sat down. A sneer came from the side, we have seen a lot of beauties, but we have never seen such a restricted beauty. Xia Yingluo, I didn't expect you have such a good figure. You will look good after taking off your clothes, ha ha ha. Several boys around him also laughed in agreement. Xia Yingluo turned around and saw Zhang Qiang and his roommates, as well as Zhu Zhu and Zhang Bilian. She said something bad to herself. They were really enemies on a narrow road. Why did she meet them here? What are you talking about so uncleanly? The golden bell is about to explode. Whoever does something dirty, we will say what we say, ha ha, why don't you let others talk about it? Zhu Zhu also smiled, feeling bad about being robbed of the limelight by Xia Yingluo alone at the engagement banquet last time. Finally out. Zhang Bilian looked at her with pity, Xia Yingluo, even if you are poor, you shouldn't do anything just for money. Xia Yingluo lowered her eyes and played with the bowl of vegetable soup in her hand, if you bother me again, believe it or not, I'll pour it on you. The distance between the two tables was very close. Looking at her secretly murderous look, Zhang Bilian was really afraid that she would throw a tantrum at her regardless. Anyway, Xia Yingluo's reputation was ruined, and she couldn't afford to lower herself to the same level of knowledge as her. Zhang Bilian comforted herself, stood up gracefully, and called to her followers, let's eat somewhere else. Made it clear that he disdains being associated with Xia Yingluo. Humph, who is that? Jin Linger was so angry that she almost broke her chopsticks. Xia Yingluo said, why are you angry? Let's eat before the truth is found out. No matter how angry you are, it will be in vain, and it will be a joke. It's not too late to wait until the private detective finds out who harmed her before taking action. The cell phone rang. Xia Yingluo grabbed it and took a look, Wei Lingnan. Why didn't you tell me when you changed your number? This was Wei Lingnan's first sentence. Xia Yingluo then remembered that she had indeed forgotten to tell him, who are you from me? Why do you want to raise an army to accuse me? Wei Lingnan smiled lowly on the other end of the phone, what's wrong, are you in a bad mood? No, Xia Yingluo said. Wei Lingnan was not angry, I heard what happened in the past few days. The video editing was done well. It's normal for you to be angry. Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment, do you believe that's not me? Wei Lingnan chuckled again, of course, not to mention that she didn't have such a personality. Just looking at the woman's heart in the shot, she knew that there were scars on Yingluo's heart that he had burned with his own hands. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1209. Chapter 1209 Dating. Xia Yingluo didn't think much about it. She just heard him say of course, and her mood improved inexplicably. Among the people around her, apart from Jin Ling, he was the only one who believed in her, which made people feel so warm. On the other end of the phone, his voice was very calm. I haven't seen you for a few days. We agreed to go on a date once a week. I'm at cafe number 8 now. You have to come within half an hour. With a commanding tone, Xia Yingluo's just improved mood turned bad again. She wanted to curse, but considering that she had promised him before and was afraid of another rejection reaction, she had no choice but to reluctantly say that she would definitely come. After hanging up the phone and not even bothering to take a few bites of food, she said goodbye to Jin Ling and left the cafeteria. She took a taxi and went straight to cafe number 8 according to the address he sent. Cafe number 8 is located in the downtown area of the city. It is a very high-end coffee shop. The Nordic-style decoration is very romantic, elegant, and full of exotic atmosphere. The waiter opened the door for her, and she walked in and saw Wei Lingnan sitting in a semi-enclosed booth by the window, still wearing a light-colored shirt, his slender legs crossed together, holding a cup of coffee in his hand, looking leisurely. Looking at him, she thought, some people are really born to be clothes hangers, and they are pleasing to the eye no matter how you look at them. Facing the beauty, the resentment in her heart subsided a little, and she sat down opposite him. Wei Lingnan called the waiter, "Give this lady a cappuccino." Xia Yingluo looked at him dissatisfied, "Only children drink cappuccino." Wei Lingnan smiled, "In my eyes, you will always be a child." Xia Yingluo was half stopped by his words. After the waiter placed her order and left with a smile, she finally realized, "I'm already 16. No, that's not right. I'll be 17 in a few months." Wei Lingnan lowered his eyes, "Do you know how old I am?" Xia Yingluo looked at him suspiciously. This man looked very young, probably in his early 20s, maybe younger than her two brothers. "How old can you be?" she snorted. 21. 22. Don't pretend to be young and mature in front of me. I tell you, I don't accept this. I'm older than you think, he said quietly. Xia Yingluo shrugged. Fairy? Monster? Vampire? Mr. Wei, stop making trouble and put away your tricks of deceiving children. You are only 6 or 7 years older than me. What's the big deal? While talking, cappuccino was served. The sweet aroma of coffee fills the air. Xia Yingluo stirred it with a small spoon, picked it up and took a sip. The cappuccino made here was so delicious. Every taste bud on the tip of her tongue seemed to be blooming with fragrance, as if it was floating in the clouds. It tastes okay, he smiled. She was about to nod, but turned her face away a little arrogantly. Just something to coax a child. The Earth is a bad planet. Wei Lingnan also picked up his coffee, enjoying the bitter aroma. Human beings are also a bad race. Fortunately, the coffee we make is quite delicious, which almost saves all the incongruities. Xia Yingluo sneered, "Don't tell me, you don't seem to be human." "I am not what I am." Xia Yingluo raised her eyes to look at him, trying to distinguish the truth from falsehood in his words. After a moment, she laughed softly, "Mr. Wei, why don't you act? It sounded like the truth. I almost believed it just now. Even if I have a strange disease and passed on some kind of rejection reaction to me, so I shouldn't do anything about it, right?" Wei Lingnan said calmly, "Are human beings really so good?" "What? You are very helpful to humans." "Nonsense, because I am a human being," Xia Yingluo said, taking another sip of cappuccino. Wei Lingnan squinted his eyes slightly to look at her. The clear, light golden sunlight in the afternoon reflected in his eyes, reflecting the dim light, which was unpredictable. He didn't know what he was thinking. Xia Yingluo drank coffee very quickly, and in a short time, the small cup of cappuccino was consumed. She put down the exquisite printed small porcelain cup and stretched out her hand to the man in front of her. "Bring it here." "What?" Wei Lingnan asked. "Medicine to treat rejection. Otherwise, why did he think she wasted her time drinking coffee with him?" "You drank it," Wei Lingnan said. "Huh?" Xia Yingluo's eyes widened in disbelief. "The antidote is in the coffee," Wei Lingnan said calmly. Many years ago, he had considered the possibility that she would have a rejection reaction after touching her. For this reason, he devoted all his efforts to cultivating a few scatena flowers. After eating them all, he could directly relieve her body. Rejection reaction. It's a pity that it was all wasted by her. The medicine placed in coffee today is just the remaining defective product. It cannot directly detoxify and can only be taken slowly. Xia Yingluo was at a loss when she heard this. No way, she thought there must be a capsule or a pill or something. How could she drink it so easily? "How do I know if what you say is true or false? Will you lie to me?" As if he could read her mind, Wei Lingnan said, "Do you think it's true if I give you a pill?" Xia Yingluo was speechless. What he said made sense. "Okay, I drank the antidote as coffee." She scratched her hair in distress. "Wei Lingnan, do I have to go out with you to drink coffee more often in the future? When will it be?" Wei Lingnan said, "The role of the antidote is very simple. It actually helps you build your own immune system. When your immune system is strong enough to resolve the rejection reaction on its own, you no longer need the antidote." Xia Yingluo was confused when she heard this. "My immune system has always been very strong, and my annual physical examination is very healthy." Wei Lingnan smiled slightly, but the smile did not reach his eyes. "It's not your human immune system." His tone was soft, making Xia Yingluo feel the cold wind blowing behind her. What do you mean?" Wei Lingnan stopped talking. His Aluo was obviously his only remaining kin in the universe, but he already regarded himself as a human being. Maybe, even the earth regards her as a human being? Therefore, when he violated and possessed her, her body would have a rejection reaction. This was because the earth did not want its people to combine with foreign races, for fear that the offspring they would produce would tarnish the purity of the blood of the earth's indigenous people. What a stupid planet! Wei Lingnan lowered his eyes to drink coffee. When he raised his eyes, he changed the subject. "Did you hire a private detective to investigate the person behind the scenes?" Xia Yingluo was stunned for a moment before following his train of thought. After all, this was what she cared about, so she quickly put aside the problems of rejection and the inhumanity of humans. "How did you know that I went to see a private detective? What is there about you that I don't know?" Good evening. From the next chapter to 2 o'clock in the morning, there will be an update every hour. There will be an update at 7 o'clock. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1210. Chapter 1210. The real murderer is Gu Jingxiu. Humph, there are so many, Xia Yingluo thought arrogantly. He would be surprised when she returns to the family more than a year later and reveals her identity. At this time, it is more important to focus on the problem at hand first. I don't know which bastard framed me. If I find out, I will cut him into pieces. Her puffy little look is so cute. Wei Lingnan said softly, "Okay, I'll help you cut her into pieces." Xia Yingluo nodded vigorously and looked at him as if remembering something. "You are so powerful, do you know who is harming me?" Originally she was just asking casually, but she didn't expect Wei Lingnan to really answer. "No." Huh, she was extremely surprised. "Withdraw your private detective, there is no need to investigate," Wei Lingnan said. "It was Gu Jingxiu who harmed you." "Gu Jingxiu?" This name shocked Xia Yingluo. Isn't that his so-called fiancé? She finally understood why she was framed. At the engagement party that day, Gu Jingxiu saw her and Wei Lingnan being so intimate that no other woman could bear it. But he didn't expect that the seemingly dignified and polite Miss Gu's methods of causing harm to others would be so dirty, and she was just a hair away from being put in a place of eternal destruction. Xia Yingluo looked at Wei Lingnan. How could you fall in love with such a vicious woman? Wei Lingnan said calmly, vicious? Although, when it comes to being vicious, you are tens of millions of times more ruthless than her. Xia Yingluo was silent. He was not the one who was almost insulted on the set anyway, so it didn't hurt his back to stand and talk. But why did he tell her that the real culprit was Gu Jingxiu? He couldn't be just trying to make her angry? As if seeing her doubts, Wei Lingnan said warmly, be careful of her. He was worried that something would happen to her. Even though he knew that she was very skilled and smart, he was always afraid of the times when she was not as close as possible. Xia Yingluo noticed the warmth in his tone. Her originally angry mood calmed down a little, and she nodded. Wei Lingnan smiled, pulled her fair and shiny little hand to her lips and kissed her gently across a log coffee table. What are you doing? She was unhappy again and glared at him. Just wait, sooner or later I will help you vent your anger, he said. Taking it out on your fiancé, she didn't believe it. I said before, Gu Jingxiu is not my fiancé. Wei Lingnan looked at her. I will fulfill your wish and cut her into pieces. He had his own purpose in keeping Gu Jingxiu, but no matter what, that woman won't end well. Xia Yingluo didn't believe it. Come on, I'm not that easy to coax. Push the coffee cup, stand up, say goodbye to him and leave. Wei Lingnan was still sitting in the booth. The light-colored shirt looked very elegant and skinny on him. His slender legs were crossed, watching her leave, and the air was filled with light sad jazz music. Xia Yingluo returned to the training camp. I had just finished dinner and showered when I heard Jin Linger in the dormitory shouting, Yingluo, Yingluo, it's a big event. Come and see. The campus network has been bombarded. Wasn't it the pornographic film with your lens that was posted before? Film. Now your scene has been replaced with Zhang Bilian's face. Oh my god, this editing is so flawless. Xia Yingluo was also shocked and hurried over to watch with Jin Linger. Sure enough, her scenes were all changed to Zhang Bilian, which interspersed with the scene, making it look like Zhang Bilian was appearing in the scene. She clicked on the forum post and saw a hacker who wrote very arrogantly, you don't understand this video editing technology. There are at least 18 flaws in Xia Yingluo's video. It was obviously hacked. Only you pigheads can believe that she participated in it. I randomly replaced one and it was even more beautiful than the crew's editing, believe it or not. In the main post, the flaws in Xia Yingluo's version are pointed out in detail, which is very technical. The people who were eating melons suddenly understood after seeing it, and many people expressed their belief. In the face of many evidences, Xia Yingluo's injustice was cleared. The unlucky thing was that Zhang Bilian was conveniently put online as an upgraded editing textbook by the unknown hacker. The editing, which was more exquisite than Xia Yingluo's version, was circulated one after another. In just a few hours, the traffic exploded. Ha ha ha, Zhang Bilian is going crazy now. Jin Linger banged the table and laughed, tell her to mock you. Tell her to mock you. Who edited this video? It's so awesome. Look where Zhang Bilian's face is. Xia Yingluo also felt very relieved. Her only regret was why Zhang Bilian was replaced instead of Gu Jingxiu. I don't know which warrior who saw injustice on the road did it. Could it be Wei Lingnan? Just as she was lost in thought, she saw Jin Linger pulling her. Ha ha ha, Yingluo, when we go to class tomorrow, we will mock Zhang Bilian and his gang back. Use your time to show off the bad temper you have been feeling these days. This appearance of fearing that the world would be in chaos played into Xia Yingluo's heart, so she laughed and said, okay. However, the next day, before they could ridicule them, Jong Billion was already embarrassed to see anyone, not only on the campus network, but also in the cinema version of the movie across the country. The scenes that were supposed to be mixed with Xia Yingluo and the naked substitute were replaced. All turned into Jong Billion, looking more passionate, lustful, exposed in front of everyone without any cover-up. Jong Billion was so angry that she locked herself in the dormitory and cried several times. She called home and asked her parents to find a way to deal with it. But no matter how hard the Jong family tried to use their connections, the matter could not be undone. The crew said that although they did not know why the edited scenes in a good film would be replaced, since it has been released, there is no possibility of changing it. As for compensation for losses, impossible. Why not help your daughter become famous? Your family should be grateful. Jiang's parents were so angry that they threatened to file a lawsuit against the production crew. With Gu Jingxia backing her, the director and producer were not afraid at all. Go ahead and sue, you can sue anyway. It's best to sue Jong Billion's reputation in the industry and see who else dares to use her in movies in the future. The Jong family's parents were afraid to be threatened by them. Their daughter would have to eat this bowl of rice in the future. The crew used both kindness and power. After beating the killing stick, they gave some sweet dates and comforted Jiang's parents, saying, "Look on the bright side, this is also helping Jong Billion become famous. Who knew about her before? Now this drama has received such a good response, the audience will remember her, which is good for accumulating her popularity. Everyone knows that she is using a naked substitute, and it is not her, so there is nothing to be afraid of. The Jong family is in trouble." News about the entertainment industry is limited to the entertainment industry, but movies are for the public. In order to deceive Xia Yingluo, the crew did not mention the substituting in the cast list. Anyone who does not pay attention to entertainment news would think that the actress playing the female student did it herself. Appearing naked. End of this chapter.